And I'm here with Hazel Mann and Aaron Block. Aaron Block is the co-founder and managing director of MetaProp. For those who are not familiar yet, Aaron, tell them a little bit about MetaProp and a little bit about what you guys do.
So MetaProp are early stage venture capitalists. I think you just had Nick Ramito up on the stage.
Sure, from VTS.
Imagine the people whose full-time effort it is to go hunt for mini versions of Nick Ramito. Think Nick Ramito 6 or 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So we invest in the early stage real estate technologists and then help them achieve their dreams, give them funding, access to capital, access to customers, and eventually they start to fly, just like Nick and VTS has. That's what we do. Early stage venture capital focused on the PropTech world.
Fantastic. And is that what this book is about?
Yeah, the book's called PropTech 101. It's really a primer, an accessible primer for a broad set of readers, folks who just want to get into the world of PropTech, get a better understanding of the who, what, where, how, and why of PropTech. It's been pretty well received so far. It's a bestseller on Amazon, so encourage everybody to take a look.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
As long as it's useful, we're happy.
Yeah.
Now, Hazel has come on to take over some of my hosting duties, and I am delighted to have you. Hazel, I'm going to let you kind of lead this, but Aaron, I'll be listening in and may have a chime in myself. But what are you interested in most about finding out what Aaron has been doing?
Yeah, so I mean, with his book coming out and then with what you guys are doing in the space and being very laser focused on PropTech specifically, what is your approach from the VC side in evaluating if a startup has value for the commercial operators in the space, just so the startups would know? And also on the owner side, how do you recommend they look at a startup in the space and see if it is a value to them?
Yeah, Hazel, we get asked that question all the time, and there's a lot of that actually in the book. Part of the reason why we included some of the checklists and tools and diligence forms that we've used is because it's not as much about the process that goes through. That's the science. It's the art of being able to figure out who the people are. And there was a very famous venture capitalist who came to speak at one of our accelerator sessions. We run an accelerator with Columbia University to help some of these young PropTech companies grow. And he came to the MetaProp Accelerator at Columbia University, and he stood in front of the group of startups, and he said, there's 5 things I look at when I'm evaluating an early stage company. And he's a broad investor, does PropTech, but does everything else. He goes, team, 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 and team.
Huh.
So he's way smarter than I am, so I think, listen, we all invest in team first, especially at the very early days of an entrepreneur's journey.
Yeah.
So how do you account for commercial real estate tech specifically is a much smaller industry than the larger tech industry as a whole. And so overall there's been a gap in data related jobs and AI specifically.
Yep.
So how do you account for the big gap in the labor workforce in the CRE tech zone and being able to find teams with adequate business experience alongside the technical experience in order to execute on either portfolios nationwide or globally?
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, you know this better than most people in the world. The data people who are great are hard to find as it is, and if you layer in CRE tech and you layer in PropTech and some of the evolving landscape, you realize that there's very little talent on the street today that has been through the intersection of real estate and tech in a meaningful way. I think, when Nick does his, $200 billion exit and IPO, hopefully some of those employees and some of those folks, I call them derivative entrepreneurs, will trickle out, and those people will be able have a chance to go start their own startups or go work in industry in ways that they haven't had a chance to, because we're still really in the first or second inning of this digital transformation of the space. I don't have a great answer for you. I wish we had a farm where we were planting digitally native seeds. I think there's a natural maturity of our space happening, and I think over time, as the old guard ages out, let's say, I think you're going to start to see some of the new guard who actually has some of these skills in their repertoire get a chance to step up and be leaders in the space. So I think those are the 2 things: the organic nature of those younger folks getting a chance to find, and you have the derivative folks coming out of the organizations that are already doing it.
Right, so speaking of old guard and new guard, we have a bunch of startups claiming, okay, the 10% savings or cost efficiency, but on the other end of the spectrum, you have the 10x in value, which is what you're looking for. So where do you see the industry going to, as far as startups wise and providing value to get to that 10x? Are there specific areas that excite you or you think are of interest to get to that 10x area in this industry?
Yeah, well, there's Ben Rasson has had his 5. I have my 3. Right? When it comes to this, he had team, 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 and team. I have NOI. And when the startups can deliver NOI, net operating income, of course, we start to see real value being created by that organization for their client group in a way that hasn't otherwise been achieved. And in a low cap rate environment, that can mean hundreds, thousands, millions, or tens of millions of dollars to large organizations. We start to get into needle-moving territory. Now, what does that mean, and how does that relate back to getting exits, 10x return from a venture capital investment? Well, we start to get into need territory from a client perspective, and that's really, if you look at what VTS is today, the clients need it. They can't really function without it. That's how you get to your 10x return, is by delivering a product that delivers improvements of NOI at the asset level or ROI at the operating level, and become absolutely required. That the street is going to pay for, that later stage private equity firms are going to pay for, that strategic acquirers are going to pay for.
Got it. So with that in mind, we have a lot of questions for you of, what's next? What do you think is lower hanging fruit today? A lot of the operators in the space are actually just getting caught up with yesterday's technology.
Yeah.
And I interview on all my data panels, where are you at? And a lot of them are just getting started or at the basics. But I want to accelerate this question, and I know you get asked what's next a lot, but I want to see what is day after tomorrow technology look like for you? So there's the tomorrow technology, which you're obviously investing in today, but like further out, that's a little bit further removed. What kind of day after, like really cutting edge technology are you most excited about?
We call that frontier tech. Is that where
So that'd be bleeding edge.
Bleeding edge,
Yes.
yeah. Well, there's themes and areas that we care a lot about, and we've got some early investments around blockchain now, which we didn't have previously. Blockchain related technologies coming to the real estate space. Still very early days. We've got some 3D printing investments that we've made, some modular investments that we've made. We really like things that are taking very small, seemingly tiny niches within the real estate market that happen to be, billion-dollar shoulder markets, and going to attack them. We just invested in a company out of MIT, a bunch of graduates who have a fabulous tech-enabled site surveying technology, right? So this site surveying, pretty pedestrian. The engineers out there, these guys are bringing it all digital. And the idea that you're able to take little areas of real estate like that and totally transform them, either blow them up or empower the practitioners to be able to do more, I think all of those categories that I mentioned are ones to keep an eye on. One space I'm particularly interested in that I think many people actually care about that's now starting to get some traction. We've made a couple of investments, and I think it's a little more bleeding edge, is we're starting to see some technologies that are allowing the affordability of housing to be improved. And that has tremendous momentum right now. That is going to be tremendously momentous going forward, and there's support from every key stakeholder group to improve affordability of housing, and now we're starting to see some tech that's affecting that. That's really exciting.
Yeah, Jerry, do you have any ads for?
No, I guess my only question is what is coming up for you in the next year? What are you most excited about?
Yeah, I think right now we just made a really incredible investment in our platform team. Our owners and managers, 15 billion square feet around the world, are the limited partners who invest in our funds. We've invested in our platform team, bringing on someone from IBM who's full-time in the offices of all of these limited partners, these strategic real estate organizations, helping them engage with innovation, supporting more tools into that group, giving them all the weaponry they need to be really successful, I think will help our startups. And equal but opposite, we hired a woman from Newark Venture Partners to come over on the platform side and put wins on the board for our startups. So professionalizing what we do. We've always been pretty good at what we do. We're trying to get to that absolute great level, that 99th or 100% of perfection, where we're putting wins on the board for all the key stakeholders in our ecosystem of 107 startups and dozens of LPs, because really it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you do a really good job, you create a flywheel effect where startups get more opportunities, investors get more innovation, we make more money for everyone, and things kind of move on. So we're really excited about the growth in our firm and the wins that we're able to put on the board for everyone over the next few months.
Terrific. Well, for those who don't have it, PropTech 101 looks like a fantastic book. Hazel, thank you so much for being here for the interview. Aaron, thank you.
Aaron,
and
thanks.
we'll see you guys at Realcomm 2020 and out on the floor tomorrow.
Thank you, Jay.
Cheers.
Thank you.